Forget about Kenya. I want to learn something more interesting, like imperialism in China. This is so interesting.
What's not interesting? Do you know what is interesting? The Last Emperor of China. That's not interesting. That is trash. We should go watch The Last Emperor of China.
Okay, let's go watch it together.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is my friend, Your Majesty. Safe and warm under my arm. Kept me company on the long journey here. See? He is kowtowing to Your Majesty. Now he can be the Emperor's cricket.
As you can see, Puyi and his servants are dressed in traditional Chinese robes. On the other hand, Reginald Fleming Johnston, his tutor, is in Western business attire. In his Oriental surroundings, Johnston is really out of place.
Your Imperial Highness, the new tutor, Mr. Reginald Fleming Johnston.
Puyi is unused to Western mannerisms like handshakes.
How do you do, Your
This
Majesty?
entire scene highlights China's resistance to modernization during imperialism.
In Scotland, Your Majesty.
But then where's your skirt? In your country, men wear short skirts, do they not?
No, Your Majesty, Scotsmen do not wear skirts, they wear kilts.
Kilts.
Kilts. A matter of words, perhaps, but words.
This
are
shows
important.
Puyi's insufficient knowledge on Western attire.
You cannot say what you mean, Your Majesty. You will never mean what you say, and a gentleman should always mean what he says.
At this point of the movie, Puyi's tutor, Sir Reginald Johnston, is returning back to Scotland. In this scene, they bid farewell.
I am going to miss you, Johnston.
I shall miss you, Your Majesty.
Do you think a man can become emperor again?
Yes.
Unfortunately, Puyi, at this point of his life, has lost his position of emperor for quite a while now. He was forced to resign to make way for a new republic government in China instead.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
How can we say goodbye?
As we said hello.
Farewell, Mr. Johnston.
Farewell, Your Majesty.
Also, if you observe the attire of the people in this scene, compared to the previous scenes, there is a lot of modernization apparent in China. Even Puyi, who was once dressed in traditional Chinese robes, has grown up to wear Western business attire.
so young. It is dangerous.
In the later stages of Puyi's life, China has become a communist nation. Puyi sees his old prison guard, who once held a respectable office, now being ridiculed by the Red Guard. This showcases the changes that took place in imperialist China during its modernization from when Puyi was emperor compared to when Puyi was a humble gardener.
Comrade, this must be a mistake. I know this man. He is a good man.
Who are you?
I am a gardener.
Join us, comrade. 造反有理，一反到底。毛主席万岁！反有理。
But what has he done?
He's been accused.
Accused of what?
Emperor's lucky. Within his element. Wouldn't write it. Confess your crime.
Nothing to confess.
Cut down to trim him off. Confess your crimes.
Nothing to confess.
Cut down. 造反有理，造反有理，一反到底。Confess your crimes.
Wait! He is a teacher. He is a good teacher.
You cannot do this to him. No. You will beat him. He is a good teacher.
Well, that was a pretty good movie.
That was a pretty awesome movie.
But I have a question.
Do tell.
How is this movie accurate? I don't know if it's accurate or not. They could have been making up everything.
I have just the thing for you. My friend Angela had an interview about how accurate this movie was.
Oh.
Hello and welcome to the Angela Show. Today we have a special guest and his name is Puyi.
Thank you. The Emperor is very pleased to be here tonight.
So, we're going to interview you about the movie The Last Emperor. Is that fine?
Yes, it's fine. Although I did not finish the movie.
Why is that?
My nurse told me not to finish it until I grew older.
Okay, that's fine. So, we're gonna ask, what did you think about the movie?
The movie was very accurate, especially the Forbidden City. It was very detailed and beautiful, and it reminded me of my childhood.
Okay, was there anything else?
Yes, the rituals were correct, like the eating. The food was always tested before I ate it.
Okay, is there anything more?
Yes, the hairdos are also very complicated and very accurate and beautiful.
Okay, thank you. That marks the end of tonight's show. Stay for part 2 of the Angela Show. And don't forget to buy Reese's peanut butter spread and yin yang!
As the last emperor of China, Puyi had quite a bit of fame. In a press release by the Magnolia Editions, artist Hung Liu states in his press release that, named emperor in 1908 at the tender age of 2, Puyi's childhood was a bizarre exercise in extremes. Living at the same time in utter isolation, but with no privacy, surrounded by private eunuchs, confined like a little prisoner. Since he was plucked from home as a toddler and declared a living god, Puyi was taken wailing and screaming to the Forbidden City to continue more than 2,000 years of imperial rule, aged at just 2 years and 10 months. But after only a few years, in 1912, as China boiled with revolution, his own adoptive mother, the Empress Dowager Long Yu, was bribed and threatened to sign abdication papers forcing him from the Dragon Throne. When Puyi was a teenager, he had a tutor known as Sir Reginald Johnston. A great portion of Puyi's childhood was spent with Mr. Johnson, and they were very close. In fact, Johnson later published a journal known as The Twilight in the Forbidden City, where he published many anecdotes and experiences he had in China during the end of the country's imperialist phase. In one part, he says that he approves of Puyi's
general intelligence, his frankness, his eager interest in the affairs of not only China, but of the world, his impulsive generosity, his artistic gifts, the lack of any indication of vindictiveness or ill will against those who had wronged him, or those who had been enemies of his house, his kindness and his sympathy with suffering, his courage in the face of grave physical danger, and a keen sense of humor. We see Puyi's eager interest in the happenings of the world when he communicates with Japan and Manchuria at great height when he becomes an adult. Contrary to the tutor's beliefs, most people believe the opposite of Puyi, as depicted in the film as well. In chapter 17 of the journal, he writes the following about Puyi. As early as the latter part of 1920, before he was 16, the emperor had succeeded in breaking down some of the conventions and formalities that had regulated his daily life. He fixed his own hours for work and play, fully understanding the unrealities of his position. He distracts courtiers by refusing to take them as seriously as they took themselves. Their crude flattery bored him, and he detected their insincerity. In the entire movie, Puyi was depicted exactly how the real Sir Johnston describes Emperor Puyi in his actuality. There were few scenes that portrayed Puyi's understanding of his position, like when he disregards his courtiers' disdainful staring as he tries to ride his bike for the first time in China. I love the historical accuracy of the script, especially where the movie exposes the dreary childhood of Puyi within the confining walls of the Forbidden City.
Welcome to part 2 of the Angela Show. Tonight we also have Adult Puyi.
Hello.
So, we're going to interview you about how accurate the movie The Last Emperor was. Is that fine?
That's perfectly fine. Actually, that's part of my real story.
Okay, so what parts were accurate?
The one said where I cannot tie my shoe, and I ride the bicycle. I'm the first one in China riding a bicycle. I really enjoyed that.
And what about the prisons?
Oh, that's horrible. First, I'm living in the heaven. Now go down to the hell. I tell myself, no, I'm not going to live like this. That's not part of my life. So I tried a couple of suicide. That's hard. Suicide yourself, you have to be determined. And the continual education later on really changed me.
Okay, thank you.
No more? I prepare more.
Like what?
Like the prison education, the work. Right? I started to enjoy making things for other people. Sewing clothes. Or read the book for the other prisoner. That's where I tell myself, wow, when you do something for other people, you can still enjoy so much.
Is there anything else?
I think that's the later part of my life really opened my world. And when I come out of the prisoner, I see a whole new China, not the one I saw before.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that marks the end of part 2.
On December 26, 1959, a news article was published in the New York Times, and it completely caught my eye. The headline was, China's ex-emperor tended pigs in jail. The article read the following. Puyi, the last emperor of China, cared for pigs and worked as a cook during his 10 years in a communist prison. Puyi was captured in 1945 by Soviet forces in Manchuria, where he had been the Japanese puppet emperor. He was turned over to communist China in 1950. He had hopes that the United States would defeat communist China in the Korean War as well. Essentially, Puyi had been sentenced in prison for his immense relations with the Japanese against China and for treason. After Puyi was released from jail and back into communist China, he was regarded to be a reactionary, and it was true. The political controversy witnessed throughout the whole film and in the history of China and its actuality interests me. The fact that Puyi started out being such a prestigious character, then ended his life becoming a humble servant, completely shocked me. as it ended his great status right then and there. There's an article from Time magazine that talks about Puyi's life after being released from prison, and it says, on December 4th, 1959, a comrade Puyi, a 54-year-old who now could dress and groom himself, was issued a special pardon and entered life as a private citizen. In 1960, Puyi was sent to Beijing Botanical Gardens to work as a gardener and a handyman. The preserve was not far from Puyi's old Forbidden City haunts, but it was worlds away from the splendor of Imperial China. He lived with his fifth wife in a dilapidated courtyard house, shuffling occasionally to the library to conduct historical research on his defanged and unloved dynasty. Just hours before he died, unmourned, of cancer at a Beijing hospital in 1967, the medical staff reportedly had to keep the Red Guards from storming the ailing Manchus' ward. In 1965, he had nothing except for his wife and his occupancy as a botanical gardener.
This book is not that bad after all, actually.
Hey, you know that movie suggested?
Oh yeah, The Last Emperor?
Yeah, it was so good. I learned so much from that. More than that book, I bet.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm glad you didn't read that book.
Yeah, me too. Bye.
See ya.